How can we convince government that organizations benefit from diversity and to continue attracting, keeping staff from overseas, even though there's some in places they're making it more difficult to get working visas?
So you're asking somebody in the wrong country. Because we have, in the same way you have a lockdown in our communities, we have a lockdown on immigrant skills. So, but I'll tell you.
But that's physical crossing the borders. Am I correct? I mean, what we're talking about is, being, digitally available to do digital work. So
yeah, so it's a good point. I think you're right. I'd say for governments and for organizations, and again, back to our construct: individuals, organizations, communities, and countries. Right. So you talk at the country level. How can a government convince organizations that they should be more flexible, but how can the government actually itself support more flexible ways of finding the workers and the challenges that are needed? So let's just say you waved a magic wand, and your country was enormously effective at helping individuals to understand their own skills. You had completely revamped your education systems so that you would be able to help people develop the skills of tomorrow. You had organizations that had inclusive hiring practices, and I'm not talking just about immigrants, but handicapped, people that have been out of work for a long period of time. Any population that could be helpful in solving the problems of current and future customers. Your communities were essentially optimized to be able to help workers to be able to continually stay relevant and develop new skill sets. And then they had all the processes that encourage new business starts and so on. And they could get workers, the workers who could solve the most effective problems. If you waved your magic wand, you had all those things, you have a far better optimization engine for applying human skills to solve problems. And then it becomes a far less challenging set of issues as to where that talent comes from. And as a matter of fact, as long as the economic engine keeps thriving, then and you're continually training your existing workers to keep on doing the work of tomorrow, then the whole engine works far better. But if you're allowing older workers to become irrelevant, if you're allowing people with handicaps to not be able to find work, if the existing workers in communities are especially in rural areas, are not able to find work, it's inevitable that the national rhetoric is going to be that we are not a good optimization machine of connecting people to work, and therefore we want to shut off the valve of bringing in that human resource from outside. It's understandable. It's not actually, it's not effective, and it doesn't solve the real problem. But in an ideal world, what ends up happening is, and I'll talk about connected networks in just a second, but the ideal way you do that is you actually have a whole set of processes that actually optimize within the country. And then the workers coming outside are actually solving problems you already knew you had and you couldn't solve. And so no country is perfect at this, but I look at the example of Singapore, right? So I don't know if you're familiar with the work of DPM Tarma, but what he has done is he's a phenomenally knowledgeable person about the future of work. And what he's done is he's actually told all the major industries in Singapore, you've got to set all these market signals. Here's what you're hiring for. And he's telling all of the universities, here's what they're hiring for. Here's what you got to train for. And it's not perfect, but they've thrown additional things into the process, like a stipend for lifelong learning. And they're trying to optimize that engine so that then the people they bring in from the outside are actually solving problems they're just not ready to solve, but they've got much higher rates of employment. So that's really what government needs to be focusing on, is how do we fix that engine? How do we help existing workers to continually be trained to do the work that needs to be done? How do we help organizations to develop more inclusive hiring practices? Because in many cases, there actually are far more skill sets in your organization than you knew about. There's a new book that's called The Inside Gig from Kelly Stephen Weiss that actually, she's developed a company that does software to do this, but to help you actually see the skill set with your own organization. Those are all processes to optimize helping more people connect to work. And then it's going to be far more likely that governments are going to say, yeah, we really need to have the conveyor belt, that we're leveraging those external resources, whether it's immigrants or whether it's remote work platforms. Otherwise, it's understandable they're going to want to lock the doors because they want to make sure all of their existing, if they don't make sure that their existing people have jobs, then they've got, then obviously your country has a problem.